Shalom Uvracha. So even here in Israel, we hear the news from America and around the world about racial tension in society, huge protests, great anger, great suffering. What does Halacha say about taking part in protests? Does Halacha talk about protests? Well, interestingly enough, there's a response from our rabbi and teacher, Rav Henkin, in his response, Shut B'nai Banim, where he addresses the question of protesting. The question came up in the protests for Russian Jewry that were held in Washington in the late 1980s and before and after. But from that, we can learn about protests in general. Rav Henkin says that it's not a new question. There's a Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit. The Gemara discusses that in a certain place in the Roman Empire, they decreed the Jews should not keep Shabbat, should not be able to learn Torah, and were forbidden from giving Brit Milah to their children. The rabbis didn't know what to do. They sent a delegation to, in the words of the Gemara, a very prominent woman of Rome who all the important people of Rome would go in and take advice from her. And they asked her what to do. She said that they should go out to the marketplaces at night and protest. And the Gemara relates that that's what they did. The people would go out at night, they would protest, and they yelled out, "Are we any less citizens than everyone else in Rome? Should we be treated differently than anyone else?" And their voice was heard, and the decree was rescinded. Rav Henkin learns from this some very important points about the laws and halachot of protesting. The first thing he learns is you need to take advice from people in the know. This famous Roman woman, who, says Rav Henkin, was probably not Jewish, but she had great political understanding. Is your demonstration going to help the situation? Or is it going to cause more problems? Is it going to help those in need or not? That's the first thing he says, that a person needs to take advice from the people in the know. And he even writes, the great rabbis who gave opinions about protesting in the past, it has no validity for the situation now, because every generation's protests are different and the situations change so often. The second thing he says is that when we protest, we should protest for things that are essential for the Jewish community. In the case of the Gemara, it was the learning of Torah, keeping a Shabbat, keeping a Brit Milah. He says in relationship to the Russian Jews, it was letting them live as decent Jews in the world, to be able to leave the closed Soviet Union and live as Jews. Could that apply today for social equality against injustice from society? These are matters that we're going to have to judge according to the effect of the demonstration. But there's certainly something to ask about there. The last thing he writes is that the demonstration has to be held in the way that's going to be most effective. He says that in the time of Gemara, they went out at night in the marketplace because first, people weren't busy at night, so you could have more protesters. And secondly, the city was quiet at night, so their voice would be heard. Says Rav Henkin, you need to take into consideration what is going to be the most effective way of demonstrating. We send here from Jerusalem our tefillot to America and to the whole world that there should be justice for all, there should be peace in the streets, and we should only know good times. Shalom Uvracha.